Alright, hi, my name is Coach Oyama and I have a passion to help you improve. I specialize in macro analysis, and here are some, no, wait, I do all my coaching for free. All you gotta do is DM me. Here are some of my experience in my Discord tag if you don't have it here down in the bottom. And as a coach and player, blah, 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 yeah, aka, I will try to help you. Baptiste, I haven't read any of this stuff, so let's go ahead and read it. Going into this VOD raw, I haven't prepared for it, not gonna lie. Hopefully by the end I'll give you 3 things to work on. Hey there, every single VOD reading with a lot of issues, relevant, interacting improvement. I went to Diamond. I don't know if it's a matchmaker or me, but I went 4 wins, 15 losses, which I all had better stats in overall gameplay of my team, and I don't know what to do. I know my aim is a bit lacking in this gameplay, but please help. Okay, so just a general note. As a mindset to improve, if you want to be a professional player, of course you don't. You don't have to listen to me harp on you, but Valentine. Perfect. So if you want to be a professional player, take accountability for all your losses, even if it's your teammates' fault. And also, you don't have, if you're not a professional player already, you don't have to perform when you're performing. And if you're on tilt, just get off. There's no need to go more than 4 losses in a single session, even unless you're like a grinder kind of person. You just grind. But if you're at the point where you're thinking like, my teammates are terrible, just get off. Like, it's no mindset to have. Your teammates are always terrible, but it's just when you notice it. So, on one end, you have to trust your teammates to help you because this is a team game. But on the other end, there's always more that you can do to control, and the uncontrollable variables, if you're too focused on those, you're not going to be focusing on the controllable variables that you can manage on your own. Okay. So, needless to say, until you're like at the very high level of gameplay, there's really no such thing as loser's queue. It's mostly just your own. It's what the matchmaking does to your own head that makes it loser's queue. Like, I can guarantee you, like, you're not on loser's queue, because the only time that I would say loser's queue is a real thing is if I put Dante on your account, or Super GM, I call them, when they're all in GM1. I'm ranting too much and not talking about the gameplay, but I'm just absorbing the gameplay and giving you content, I guess. Because I'm seeing some things that I could definitely talk about. But if you thought you were in loser's queue and I put Dante on your account and then he carries the game, that's not loser's queue. That's just mental loser's queue. Because that means like some level of skill can overcome that loser's queue, and it's not rigged against you, even though if it is slightly rigged. Oh, boo-hoo. Statistics line up. If you flip a coin heads and tails, at one point there'll be 10 in a row of tails. And so it's just the fact that the variance of the matchmaking is against you for those 10 times in a row that you think that's loser queue. No, that's just how matchmaking works. Like, even the most perfect matchmaking system, if it has a 99% success rate, you're going to get 10 shitty matches in a row sometime or another. So, my rant about statistics and probability, let's get on to the gameplay. So immediately what I'm noticing in your micro, first of all, because you cannot get to decision making. Ooh, what's going on here? You cannot get to decision making without understanding your own micro. Because if you're thinking too much about, if we're thinking about like your mental capital, you only have like 100% of your brain. If you're using 99% of it just to move and shoot, probably not going to get to the other high level macro of like. Because Overwatch, if you zoom out, it kind of just turns into a chess game of how well the pieces are playing and how well they can execute, you know? A knight is not going to beat a bishop in the endgame unless the bishop messes up, and like in Overwatch it's entirely possible. But relying on the bishop to mess up and not be a bishop, probably not the best strategy to have. It's probably best to just understand what a knight can do, be the best knight that you can possibly be, you know? And play to be a knight, instead of relying on the enemies to be bad, or anything like that, you know? So, number 1, stop jumping. Needless to say, that's like the first actual tip that I've given you, other than I'm sorry, but not sorry at the same time. The jumping is incessant. It really is. It's giving me a headache. And I don't mean to be mean, but the reason why I say stop jumping is because it's affecting your own gameplay, and I can tell your aim is not shabby at all. But your aim and decision making isn't too shabby, but it's literally detracting from your own like aiming, movement, and decision making. Like, your movement is uncontrolled, and so you aren't able to like properly do things. Now, I think it comes from you're gonna be hearing me rant because I'm in the mood to rant. I'm so sorry. I'm not sorry at the same time because I'm an asshole. But it comes from the idea that you're overexerting yourself and trying to get more value out of what you're currently doing. So even when you feel like you're playing at your full capacity, or if you are playing at Baptiste's possible full potential, the jumping was still there only because you're like, my team isn't doing what I think they should be doing, or we aren't doing as well as I think we should be doing, and so I'm going to jump because God forbid maybe it'll work. But instead it's not working. It's actually making you do worse than you actually should be. So to counter that, just don't jump, and then we can start to talk about, so for example, positioning here. You don't need to be on cart, your Macho's on cart. If we talk about the best positioning here, it would be on the high ground to be able to utilize your strengths of Baptiste as a healer. What rank is this? Just a platform? Okay. I feel like I'm expecting, okay. I need to adjust my expectations because I don't want to talk about high level concepts and like hone too much on like positioning rather than healing priority if we're in plat. I mean, I could, but it's just too much and not the right thing to be thinking about. Oh, the lag out. Mom, get out of my room. I'm playing Baptiste. Comes back. But, so I think talking about healing priority and awareness as a general concept to help your awareness is stop jumping. Because, like, what I like to say is, if you're a perfect player, if I pause this game right now, your awareness, like, some players can actually do this. If you talk to any professional player, they can give you like, where is, or if I asked you right now, without, I'm not going to look at the enemy team. What is the enemy team comp? No looking at the monitor right now. I have no fucking idea. Looking at your gameplay, I'm too focused on the mechanics and watching you jump up and down and try to heal your team. How are we supposed to know how to play against the enemy team if we don't know what the enemy team is running? What is on your team? Soldier, Ana, Ram, I think Junkrat? No, they had a Junkrat. I don't even know. But needless to say, if we pause at any given moment, you should be able to identify who is on the enemy team, where they are, who's on your team, where your team is, what you could possibly do to deny the enemies, and what you can do to enable your team. Because as a support player, it's enabling and not healing. It's not a healer. It's an ML7 moment. It's like, it's not healer, or I can't do his accent. That was a really, really bad accent. I'm cringing at myself. I hate myself. God. But nonetheless, that just goes to show like the mechanics. You definitely have the ability. It's not like not in you. It's not like a born talent or like genetic freak to be able to attain this. It's just the fact that you're jumping around and you're really focus on your mechanics rather than the decision making. I mean, it's only plat. But, however, one thing is like your decision making here. It's like, where is your soldier? He is visoring. This is the best time to enable him and heal him. So the only reason why you aren't doing that, it's not because you're dumb. It's because your mechanics, you're too nervous, you're too jittery, you're too jumping up and down to realize that. Or you guys do have a jump grab. Sheesh. Okay, you're jumping. God, that was such a big tire. Oh, that timing on that lamp was like, that was like too close for comfort. I don't know if that was skill or like recklessness, but that was pretty good. Okay, and then I'll talk about ult usage also. Man, most of these videos, most of these VOD reviews, I'm talking about like ult usage, mechanics. What else is there? What else? But nonetheless, you can see a lot of consistency out of just improving these couple of things. Okay, not too shabby. Yeah, not the worst. I think Because it's really hard to talk about any like higher level decision making or things that'll make you consistent without getting the mechanics out of the way first. Because if you're too busy focused on mechanics, you can't even practice that, like positioning your ability usage, because it's not consistent because you're too focused on mechanics. I want to say a big portion of this is, one, we need to get under control. Not necessarily better, just under control. And there's a difference between the two. And even if you like hit less shots, it's about consistency, being a consistently good player. And you know, being jittery can be a playstyle. I do think so. But getting under control and enabling your awareness will allow you to be way more consistent here. Okay, so the incessant jumping. Yeah. I mean, it's like, also explaining why the jumping is bad. It's like, it's similar to how reaction tests work. You know, if you're not expecting something to happen, then you're going to have a much slower reaction time to it. Whereas if you're expecting something to happen, like if you're taking a reaction time test, your reaction time will be much faster if I say, think fast. You know what I mean? But when you're jumping up and down in the air, you're not allowing yourself to be ready to think fast for your teammates, to heal them and enable them, or deny the enemies. And your brain can't transition. Like, one form of intelligence also is how fast you think. And even if you're thinking really fast, if you're not setting up to transition really fast and thinking one step ahead so the transitions are smooth from like, I'm healing, I'm shooting, then you're never going to reach consistency. Yeah, I think I want to talk about positioning on Baptiste a little as a third thing. So mechanics, positioning, and alt windows. I might change the order of which I think is important, but I think the tunnel visioning will help also with the positioning, because really that's all the mechanics is doing. It's tunnel visioning you into being in these bad spots. So if we can first of all address the direct effect of it, which is the mechanics, and then also immediately prevent the mechanics from appearing by being in bad spots, I feel like that'll give you a lot of more value in your gameplay here. Okay. It's very chaotic. Ooh, yeah, almost saved your Arisa there. See that? The reason why I like coaching from a macro perspective instead of a micro perspective is especially because when players coach themselves and do VOD reviews on themselves or try to learn from their own gameplay, it's very hard because it's just like, oh, why didn't I save my Arisa there? I should have just right-click shift her. But if we zoom out, look at the forces of what's going on and like the reasons why and how to counteract those and how to improve your gameplay, it's like it was your mechanics and your positioning that got you in that situation where your Arisa was low health and that you weren't at your maximum potential of being able to support her. And then we can talk about like, oh, I missed this shot. But if we're not enabling ourselves to be in the best situation to hit shots in the first place, through not just positioning, like mentally, mentally is very important. Because if you go on a tilt streak, then it affects your positioning. Your positioning directly affects how you hit your pellets, because, you know, maybe it's like one small thing. You're not in the right position for 5 seconds, but 5 seconds over 5 games is 25 seconds. 25 seconds is like a solid percentage of the entire time. And if you're a percentage higher in rank, that's like a full rank higher. And not saying that 5 seconds being in a better position is going to help you, but, you know, having the mindset of like being in the position will prevent you from that 5 seconds, and that'll add up and compound over time. Oh, that was a crazy little dagger there. Okay, so what I'm gonna, yeah, we're in cleanup phase. There's no way that you respawn here. What I'm gonna recommend to you, or respawning back to the fight, is one, we need to get under full control of our mechanics here. So I don't want to go into the practice range, but I feel like I should go into the practice range. Oh, God. Okay. Dilemma, I'm just not going to go into the practice range. I feel like I can just talk about it and get enough value out of talking about it. So, one, stop jumping. This is a very common tip. But the overarching thing that you need to get down, it's not just the jumping. That's like, That's the effect. Let's get to the cause. The cause is you're nervous. You're very, very nervous. Your mechanics are like jittery. It's not that you're bad because you're actually hitting quite a few shots and your consistency and accuracy is okay. But looking at the scorecard, that's just the effect, not the cause. And so if it's affecting your positioning, which it is. So number one, let's get your mechanics under control. So what that consists of is movement. The mechanics first. You know what? Why didn't I think of this sooner? Why don't I just... Okay, so mechanics. The one is movement. So for you, that's movement. Your aiming is a totally separate issue that's on top of the movement, but the movement needs to come first. And if you can read that, good for you. Otherwise, that's just there for me, I guess. Two is your aiming, but I want you to focus on your movement first. Get rid of the jumping. No jumping. Big emphasis on no jumping, because this is the most important part for you, because you cannot get to consistency without and only think about your mechanics. Only once you're able to only use like 10%, let's say 30% of your brain for mechanics, and you can use 70% of your brain for decision making. And decision making is the majority of Overwatch. And that's how Winston players are in top 500. Not because they're insane aimers, because they have very good decision making. So no more jumping, and then we'll get the aiming under control over time. And it'll be so much better. Instead of jumping, because you're like, if I can't jump, how am I slippery? How am I not going to die every team fight? AD strafe, take the high grounds and position in places that are good for you. And when you're in moments where you do have to jump to get to the high ground, or jump to dodge, or jump to confuse the enemies, that's fine. But make sure it's controlled, because right now you're not doing controlled jumping. You're just like, shift, jump, you know what I mean? So, like, yeah. Two, let's talk about positioning. Okay, so, just funny to think about you just watching me stare at my monitor, writing out positioning very poorly. But your positioning, if we look at the team fights in general, maybe you are aware of it, maybe you aren't aware of it. I think it's more if you aren't aware of it and you have it more in habit. But if we're more aware of it instead, so the positioning here is decent. I like it. It's behind the tank player, but it needs to be consistently behind the tank player, in which you know that the enemies are going to be in front of you, and you're positioning well in putting a barrier of your tank player or the map in between you and the enemies. Even better if you're able to take high grounds, and then your positioning is even better, because we can't even get to the point where I want to recommend shooting at the enemies, even though that's very, very, very important. That's the very next step. If you're able to put it into your gameplay, because I want to give you 3 actionable steps that you can actually do and not overwhelm you with like, this is how OWL players do it. You know what I mean? But, so if you can get to the point where you're like, up here, positioning well, your mechanics are under control, then I can recommend to you, then shoot one healing pellet, shoot once at her, shoot another healing pellet. And then if he needs healing more than, you balance it out, the healing versus damage, because a lot of Baptiste is actually the damage part, and I noticed that you're not getting very much damage. It's not very like DPS, like I'm gonna kill someone in flank for the damage, but more so like just vomiting out damage kind of into the enemy tank and building your window really fast, and just having that like slow layer of push and control because of your damage. As a Baptiste player, that's really good. So if you can deal damage to this Pharah, that's really, really good, because you're marking her out of the high ground. Or if you can deal damage to the Zenyatta or the Junker Queen while still healing, that only comes after your mechanics are down and we're able to position to put yourself into that place. So the positioning, take high grounds when possible, and then it'll kind of come slowly too, because once you're up here, you're like, why am I healing my Ramatra? There's like such a good opportunity to shoot the enemies when my Ramatra is full health. You're like, huh. In my downtimes, I can just be up time again if I'm shooting because I'm in a good position, but nonetheless, yeah, positioning is very important. And then, play again. Oh, tragic. Now we have to deal with the text in the... Yeah, we have to deal with the text in the background. I didn't even pause it. Oh, perfect. Okay, positioning, and then finally ultimate usage. The let's go and look at your ults. I didn't really talk about them. I was too busy ranting. But your ultimates, I want them on high grounds and in the chokeholds. So if we're talking about where to ult, and when to ult is a completely different thing that I want to talk about another time. But your ultimates can immediately improve on where they are. So if they're in the choke points, I want them right behind where the choke point is. You don't get an ult out there, it goes the wrong one. Okay. So your window here, not really in a choke point and not really on a high ground. I would much rather have you use your ult up here, even though it's not in direct line of sight of the enemies. You get so much more value because you can see more of the team fight and your ultimate's more flexible. Because right here, it's just shoot the enemies. And you don't have to think about all this other stuff. Just as a generality, choke point. This is the choke point on this one, or on high ground. And high ground is way better on this point. Like always on this point, high ground, high ground, high ground, high ground here, high ground here, high ground over here, the high ground over here, the high ground even up here. There's a high ground up here. So many high grounds to window from. But reason why is if you use your window here, the only thing that you're doing is shooting the enemies. Even if your teammates push forward, if the enemies LOS you, this window is not flexible. Versus on the high ground, they have to contest point, and your teammates can also push forward through the window, and you have the positional advantage of the high ground. If we look at the window on defense for offense, yeah, offense on this point here, or do you actually have the window? This window is fine, but it's a bit too far into the chokehold. And so what that does is, even though it like ish enables your team ish, I'm thinking ahead way too fast, to be able to shoot through the window, I would much rather have you the window, a more flexible window either on high ground or at the choke point here, so they can't push past it. So what this window does is it doesn't see onto cart, and again if we're on the high ground up here, or even better in the chokehold because you're with your Ana, so the Ana can shoot through, or even better if you're very confident in your ability to shoot the enemies and you think that you can pull it off, which is the right play, but only if you're mechanically talented enough. Put the window up here, which I think you are. You're pretty good at the aiming stuff if you're not jumping. You put the window up here and you have a full vision over point. You can even like heal your Ana if needed. And it's very flexible because if they push you up here, they're off of cart. Just like one random thing, but more so it's more flexible and they can't walk up and through the window and deny your window. Same thing over here. They can't walk up to and through the window and deny your window, or else there's repercussions and disincentives for them to do that. So up here, it's the best window, high ground again, or in the choke is the second best. And just, it sounds like a small thing, and it sounds like I'm harping on you for this, but really, this is a very, very important concept, because you guys do get this point in? No, you guys don't get this point in. You could have won this this could have been a game-winning window right here, if you're on the high ground here, and windowing up here. That possible kill on Ana, possible kill on D.Va, because she has to DM you and not your team, and so your team will kill her, or you will kill her. Possible kill on that Mora too, because I feel like if you hit 2 burst shots on a Mora while she's doing her thing, she instantly dies. And I think you could do that as a player, especially since she cold wall low. So this literally would have won you the game. And now that's a very dramatic example, but needless to say, you know, if you're doing this consistently 1 out of 10 times, if this scenario happens again, which it'll probably happen more than 1 out of 10 times, you'll literally hard carry your games just because you were doing better windows. And that's like that is a very optimal scenario to look at. The window positioning. And I feel like your idea of when to use it in a team fight is good, and there's a whole different conversation I can have about that. But I don't want to have this go for too long, or 23 minutes, pretty manageable time. Yeah. So, again, mechanics, get that under control. I cannot emphasize under control. Not good, but consistently under control, so you can start thinking about other things. And at the same time, you can still work on positioning. And also, window is a completely separate decision-making thing that you can do regardless of your mechanics. So, if there's anything that you take out from this, these 3 things, as well as like any of the other general knowledge that I was talking about, these 2 things are very important for you. And hopefully good luck in your next rankings. Hopefully you can implement these 3 things. And I think you can definitely climb to like Masters nearly instantly using these 3 things. And then once you're in Masters, you can get to higher level concepts and get to GM pretty easily, because Honestly, training mechanics is way harder than training game sense because all you got to do is ask, what do I do here? And once you know, you know. And yeah, boom, done. Game sense acquired, you're in GM. Cool. We just got to get the mechanics down first, and then we can. It's just a matter of learning and implementing into your gameplay.